Hi everyone. The following topics will be covered in this video. Um, so today I will be talking about what is a SOC analyst. How much can you make in this career? What other careers can you pursue in this field? And the common interview questions for a SOC analyst career. So what I've done is I have prepared documentation, a word documentation on some of in this role and with some of these topics. So let's talk about SOC analyst. So what SOC analyst does is they work as members of a managed security team, and there are typically three tiers. So we have SOC level one, and we have SOC level two, and SOC level three. And depending on these tiers, they have their own roles and responsibilities. So the SOC level one, they monitor security tools, EDR, and SIM tools. And some of these SIM tools could be Microsoft Defender, could be some of this endpoint detection and response, Microsoft Defender. Some of the SIM tools could be Splunk, and what they do is they help to identify malicious activities on your network. So if unusual activity is detected, they escalate it to a level two analyst. So for SOC level two, what they do as well is they investigate anomalous behavior. So they might perform incident response and then initiate malware analysis. They might also build incident response playbooks that can help. So it's like an iteration that helps to um, take actions when probably when there's a phishing email. So all this is like a script that would run and help to investigate this and provide end result. So you might also, you might also see level two skills being requested for incident responder job posting. So it's different things. So and also you might also set up a jump boxes and do like forensic investigation work. That might be part of it too, depends on the organization. So for SOC level three as well, you would perform incident response. You're like the higher up. So you do reverse engineering, you would so it's like you're transitioning from another career to cybersecurity. You can often use like non-traditional jobs at a cybersecurity product. So all of these, the company will train you depending on what company that you're being hired with, and you can also work your way up as well. So how much can you make in this career? So in the United States, you can expect to make as a the time that I research about this, you can make about 58,000 to like 88,000 for an entry level SOC analyst, and some SOC analysts working in the U.S. government might make up to 150,000. So your compensation would depend on your location, the company, whether you hold the security clearance or other factors. And let's go to the topics that's very important right here. What other careers can you pursue? As a SOC analyst, you can also be a cybersecurity engineer, incident responder, malware reverse engineer, a GRC analyst, a security architect, application security engineer, and security operations engineer. So let's say you're a SOC analyst or looking to grow your skills in SOC analyst career, you can expect some of these cybersecurity interview questions. So some of the general SOC knowledge questions that you can encounter is CIA. So when we're talking about CIA, we have confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Right. Those are the backbones of cybersecurity. Those are the principles of cybersecurity. We have confidentiality, making sure that only people who have making sure that only people who are authorized to have access to systems and applications are those that are having access to it. Integrity is making sure that the data that are being stored are not modified in one way in any form. And availability is making sure that this data are available as at when needed. So and let's also explore another example of CIA being used for hospital. So, if you're in a hospital, confidentiality will ensure that only unauthorized users, system or applications can access sensitive patient data like names, social security number, health record, and all those information. Integrity will ensure that this information is not modified. You know, there's this digital signature on these documents. There's audit log to make sure that whoever make changes to a patient medical record has been recorded. Availability is to ensure that when the patient needs this information, it is available, and that there are data backup in place that can help make sure that in case of a downtime, this information will still be available for access. And what is information security and how is it achieved? Information security simply means you're protecting the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of this information. And information security is achieved through risk assessment. You have to identify the critical issues that can happen if a particular system or data is down, or if a data or a particular data get into wrong hands. You have to be able to identify what's valuable to you, whether it's information vulnerability, the threats to the confidentiality of the information, and the impact that of what would happen if a cybersecurity incident occurs. So, another question you might be asked is for you to explain risk, vulnerability, and threats. So, if, if you base on these questions, you have to be able to interconnect these questions together. Like a vulnerability is a flaw in a system. It's a weakness that can be exploited by a threat actor, and a threat actor or a threat is anything that can cause damage. For instance, it could be a code, a malicious code that's been built. It could be what do you have? It could be a script that's being run, or anything that a malicious hacker can use to exploit vulnerability. For instance, it's if there is an outdated software, misconfigurations, and all of these can be exploited to steal patients' data. Threats can be intentional. There is something that we call insider threat as well. It can be intentional. It can be unintentional. Like when a user accidentally deletes an information from a database. A risk is the likelihood of an impact once a threat exploits a vulnerability. So, using the outdated software example again, the risk would depend on upon the type of data being stored on the system, the other security tools put in place to protect the data. Another question you might be asked is, what is the difference between mm, symmetric and asymmetric encryption? So, an interviewer might ask you, what do you think is simply the difference between symmetric and so the major difference is the keys that they use. So, symmetric uses the same key to encrypt and decrypt, which is faster, especially when you're trying to transfer a large volume of data. Asymmetric encryption uses different keys, so it uses both a public key and a private key. It's slower because it's slower um, and can be expensive. Another thing that you can get hacks is, what is the difference between intrusion prevention system and intrusion detection system? So an intrusion detection system detect anomalies, detect an issues, but it doesn't act upon it. It simply means an intrusion prevention system would detect that there is an unusual activity going on and would block it, such like a malicious traffic or something out of the ordinary, or anomaly activity going on. So they can ask you, what is the security misconfiguration? So a security misconfiguration can be a vulnerability that happens when incorrect settings, or when you don't have like proper security protocols being implemented on a system, or if you work in the cloud, there might be a way that's the usual way of deploying resources, but you're not thinking of the security risks that can happen if this resources has been misconfigured. So insecure cloud storage settings, unpatched software as well is also a major issue. So another question which is very important is, they might ask you, what is a firewall? A firewall helps to filter both incoming and outgoing traffic, and based on the policies being defined, it can either block this or allow it in your system. So in modern networks, we have advanced detection. There's different firewalls. There's Palo Alto firewall, there's FortiGate, there's Cisco ASA firewall, and some of this next generation firewalls that I just mentioned have advanced threat protections. They have active inspection, so they're like proactive when protecting your network. So, there's been so many things. They can ask you questions relating to what would you do to protect your organization as a security professional. So, some of these questions would come up in some of these interviews. So, they can ask you what's the difference between a security policy and a security procedure. So another thing that you can be asked is what is non-repudiation as it applies to your IT security. So non-repudiation simply means neither the sender nor the receiver of this information can deny that they process this information. So it could be human to human communication, it can be human to machine or anything. So they can ask you, can you give me an example of security vulnerability? You can talk. There's so many security vulnerability. There's cross-site scripting. There's tons of security vulnerability. There's SQL injection. There's so many things that I can mention. But if you want to read more on it, you can go to the OWASP top 10. You can see the top 10 vulnerabilities as well. So security controls are measures that you put in place to protect your company's data, people's informations, and all that, and make sure that the operations continue running smoothly. So, what is information security governance? Right. Information security governance is the framework that defines how an organization manages its information risk. It can tell you the processes, the structure, the oversight that you needed to that would align with business objective and applicable regulations and law.